Hello, my name is John Sayer, Technical Marketing Manager, Civil Infrastructure here at Autodesk. And today I'd like to take you through virtual reality creation using the AEC collection and what I'm calling VR Level 2, and this is part 4 of that series. This is all about land development projects to VR. And today what we're going to do is we're going to bring in and animate a car inside of your VR environment just to enhance that immersive experience. So let's get started. So when we ended part 3, where we were at in our VR model creation was we had created a transparent surface here for our asphalt and part of our grass. So the grass inside of the areas in the island areas. So I'm going to launch this real quick and let you look. I'll hit my T button. That's what we use to test. And you can see my utilities underneath. All right. So that's where we were in part 3. So in part 4 here, what we want to do is I want to animate a car. So we're going to be going back and forth with 3ds Max just a little bit. So I'm going to start up here. I'm just going to kind of get in position here. All right. And I'm going to go back to 3ds Max. All right. In our 3ds Max model. Now, in our 3ds Max model, I want to actually draw this thing from the other end. I want to flip this 180 degrees. Best way to do this is to change to like our perspective view. Hold our Alt key down and our wheel on our mouse and kind of spin it around, and I can zoom back and spin it around a little bit more and then zoom back in because I want to place my line that I'm going to use for the car to follow. I'm going to place it from this direction. All right. So once I do that, these next two steps are very important. All right. I want to change to my top view, all right, on my view cube, and I'll pan back down. And then I want to change my perspective view to my orthographic. All right. Now the reason I did that is because if I draw a spline, which is what we're going to do, and I draw it when I'm in a perspective view, it's not going to be in the right spot whenever I go to move it back up. All right. So it is key to do those two steps. So now what I want to do is I want to create a spline. All right. And that's just no more than a line inside of 3ds Max. So I'm going to select my shapes button. Move over and select line. All right. And you're not going to be able to see this line in the beginning, so you want to just kind of eyeball it here. I'm going to pick a point here, 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 and I'll zoom in, and we'll go one more. Actually, let's move over a little bit more, and then we will park the car. All right, and hit enter and escape. All right, if we hit escape, we'll see these the axis, the X, Y, and Z axis. All right, so I'm going to go back to my perspective view. All right, and I'm going to hold my Alt key down on my wheel again to kind of rotate down. You can see that it's put that line at a different plane, and that's fine. So I can go up and select objects, and I can make sure that line is picked. And then I can hit the move key. All right, it's up here in the toolbar. And I can grab that and move it up, and it will be in the right location. Now, I know what's going through your mind here. That doesn't look like it's laying on the surface. That's okay, because we're going to use Civil View to tell it to follow this line and then stick to this asphalt surface. All right, so I'll go ahead and go back to, I'll go ahead and hit select objects. And I'll go back to my orthographic view and top, and rotate that around. And that's where it's going to run. All right, that's the path it's going to follow. Now, we've got some kinks in our line here that I want to be curved so that the car doesn't hit that and then make a jolt to the left. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select my object again. And then here, I'll select modify, and in my modify box I'll select that line, and it gives me my grip markers. So I'm going to select that grip first, hold my control button down, and I'm going to select the other grips here that I want to add curves. I won't put one here, and I'll let you see what it does. We'll go ahead and grab that one. Actually, you know what, we'll go ahead and make a curve there too. And we'll scroll down here in our editing dialog, and we will select fillet. Now I'm going to hold my left mouse click down over these arrows, and I'm just going to push up, and you can see it's adding curvature to my PVIs. All right, I just get it to where I want it, and I let off, and I hit escape, and I can actually just select the plus sign here, all right, the create button, and it releases that line. And I'll go ahead and save, all right. I like to make sure that I save my line work. If I do something I don't want to have to create it again, I make sure I save. Next step is to select Civil View at the top. All right, I'll go ahead and hit Civil View and hit Start Civil View. Now you can set this to default load whenever it opens 3ds Max. I just don't have it set that way. All right, now that line should still be selected, but if not, that's okay. We can select it in a minute. If I go to Civil View and then go to Civil View, the Civil View option under Civil View, and select Object Placement Style Editor. All right, once that's selected, the dialog will open up, and it was not still selected. So the first thing I'll do is select my parent shape. So if I pick parent shape and then pick that line, it populates with the name of the line. Then I want to hit parent surface. Now this is going to be the asphalt. So I just picked the asphalt, and notice what the name is. It's the same unit name as what we've been using in our flow editor in part 1, all right, to create the transparency. That's a good check right there. Now we need to add an element that I want to push down that line. So I'm going to hit add new element, and I'm going to add a car. All right, I'm just going to use a Cadillac CTS. You can use whatever car you want that's in here. All right, and I'm going to give it a speed. We're going to put it in at 50 miles an hour and hit apply. Now that will give us a dialog that comes up. It says it's basically just telling us that it's going to adjust the frames here in the animation. All right, just tell it yes, and our car comes in. Now I can drag my animation bar around, and I can see if that car parks. Now it looks to me that the car is a little bit over. All right, so I'm going to back that up, and I can see that the animation really needs to stop at 574, keyframe 574, right? So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and I'll just tell it no, I don't want to save this style. And then I'm going to select this button right here, Time Configuration, because we need to adjust that back. So I'm going to hit Time Configuration and type in 574 for the end time, hit OK, and notice that it stops there now. Now if I pull my slide bar back, the car now comes in and parks where I want it to. All right, believe it or not, we're almost there. So if I select orthographic again and go back into perspective mode, I want to kind of spin around a little bit so that I can see the side of the car. All right, I want to be able to see it really, really well. So I zoom in and I hit select objects and I pick the car. Now, if I need to pick the wheels also, all right, be sure to pick the wheels or just the frame of the car will come in. So I'm going to select the car and I'm going to hold my shift key and select each wheel here, or just when you select that wheel, it'll pick the whole wheel assembly. All right. One thing we need to do before we go ahead and export this out is we need to go up into render, and we need to drop down to scene converter. All right. Now, the reason we're doing this is because we need to convert the materials that this car is made of. They're mental ray materials, so they don't work very well inside of, matter of fact, they don't transfer at all to 3ds Max Interactive. So we need to convert them to standard materials. So if I go up here and I select create new preset file, and then I go over to the editor tab, I can see my source materials, all right, and you can see the one that we want to convert, mental ray architecture and design. All right, we're going to convert that source file to a standard material. Now you need to be sure to hit add rule, all right, and it'll populate here under conversion rules. Now I want to tell it to apply only to the selected objects, and I always hit apply only selected. We only have one material, all right, so it's only going to apply that one material. Then we can hit convert scene, and it converts those materials to something that 3ds Max Interactive will take. All right, and you'll be able to see that here in a minute whenever we export this FBX file. So the conversion is complete. I'll close this box, and I'm not going to save this preset. That is totally up to you whether you save that preset or not. So if I go up to, with my car still selected and the wheels, if I go up and hit File, Export, and Export Selected, then I can export this car out as one piece. So I'm going to go to my folder. All right. And I'm going to create a folder called Car. And you can put this again anywhere you want. I'll get into that folder and I'll call this CTS and hit Save. Now, in the next dialog, there's one thing that we need to be sure of that's selected, or the animation will not come across, and that's this Bake Animation tab. All right, if I go to, if when you initially open this, if you've never done this before, this will be minimized. So if I select Bake Animation, be sure that the start and end keyframe numbers are correct. Okay, make sure that they match this. We want it to start at 0 and end at 574. If we've gone through changing the timeline here like we did just a little bit ago, then this should come up perfectly. Just hit OK, and it exports out that car. Now, if you did not convert the scene, you will have about 30 or 40 errors here, okay? And that's basically just telling you that the materials are not going to go across, okay? This is what it should read. There should just be one error. The plugin does not support filter color and refraction map channels. Map number 31, all right? That's fine. We can go ahead and hit OK, and I can save my model in 3ds Max. Now I need to get back into 3ds Max Interactive. When we're back here in Max Interactive, now what we need to do is import the car that we just exported. So again, I'm going to go back up in my asset browser, and I'm going to kind of do a little bit of housekeeping here. So under Content, I want to create a new directory. So I right click and hit Create Directory, and I'm going to call this Live Assets. All right, you can name it again, whatever you'd like. All right, and in that Live Assets folder, I'm going to create another directory, and I'm going to call that CTS. All right, that's the car. And I will make sure that it is selected. All right, then I can hit the Import button here in my asset browser, and I can bring in that car. All right, so I'm going to go back and select the car folder, and I'll select that FBX file that we exported. Now, once this dialog comes up, we don't have to check anything here. We can drop right down to animation and be sure that new or updated skeleton comes in. And then I always go ahead and select create an animation folder. That way I can find my animation very easily. And I select import. Now, one thing to be aware of, if you do not see this animation skeleton and you only get maybe 3 or 4 files underneath this folder now, then what you need to do is just delete everything out of this folder, and you can just select everything like this, right click and hit delete. All right, I'm not going to do that. But if you've been testing cars and bringing them in or importing several times in the same session, sometimes when you create that, or when you import that FBX file, what'll happen is it won't bring everything in. So the way to fix that is just to erase everything out of here, save your project. All right, go up and hit File and Save All. Close the software, open it back up, and then I don't know what it does, but it basically releases that to where whenever you import that FBX file again, this animation skeleton will come in correctly and everything should populate correctly. So I know that that's kind of a crazy way of looking at it, but I wanted to make you aware of that, because if, like I said, you may want to test several cars and you may have them name the same thing, all kinds of different things that you could duplicate, and that's how you clear that out, is to delete everything out of there, all right, out of this folder, and save, close the software, open it back up, and then import it again, and you should be fine. All right, so now that we have our information in here, what we need to do is just drag that unit into our scene. All right, so we can drag that CTS car just anywhere, drop it in. And in the property editor, we need to go over here to translate, and I can right click on these arrows, just anywhere over here on these arrows, right click and it goes to 0. All right, so if I right click and clear out X, Y, and Z, the car comes in the right location. All right, now one last thing before we get into our flow node, our animation flow node, we need to select that animations folder, and right now if I select that animation, you can see it, and the car's a little high. Now, if I hit that, it'll take off, right? But the car's a little bit high in the air. For some reason, you need to go in and select and take off the check marks here: position compression, rotation compression, and scale compression, and then hit save, and you see the car drops down. Now the car will follow the ground the way that it needs to. Okay. Once that's set, then what we need to do is select our car. All right. And then we go to our level flow. Now in our level flow, we're going to right click and create a level unit for that CTS. All right. Then we're going to right click. Well, we could right click and find it, or we can hit tab and we can type in play animation clip. All right. Now a little housekeeping, we always connect unit to unit. Our animation, if we select that button there, we can select our animation, hit OK. Be sure to do that. I've missed this step before and then wondered why it wouldn't play. Right now it's set to loop. That's fine. All right. And then we need to create a level loaded flow node. All right. And that's so that when it activates, or actually you activate the deployment, all right, then it will automatically start the animation. All right. So if I hit tab and I type in level loaded, all right, and I connect play to out, all right, everything should be in place. All right, so I can go to level viewport and I can test my level. All right, so I'm just going to hit test level and it's going to launch this level again. All right, once this comes up, our car should animate, and it does. In the test level, it does come in really fast in the very beginning, but you can see that the car does drive on in. And I want to show you what it does when it gets to parking space, because what's going to happen is it's going to loop. All right, it's going to start playing the animation again. And we may not want it to do that. We may want it to park the car. All right, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. All right, and I'm going to go back to my level flow, and I'm simply going to change this loop to false. And then I'll go back to level viewport and test my level again. All right, after it loads here, you'll be able to see the car, and it comes in, all right, and I'm going to let it just play. All right, and it'll turn, come all the way around. We could hit our T button here and we could see our utilities, or you could squeeze the trigger because we set up a VR trigger for that, or the actual controller trigger, and it should stop. Now, how could we enhance this even more? We could have a person come up like they're getting out of the car and walk to the front door, okay, of the building. That's just another thing that we could do. We could animate several cars inside of this. We could have a car start here and come around and park. We can animate as many vehicles as we want. It's the same flow every time. All right, you start with 3ds Max right here. All right, you draw yourself a spline how you want it to come in, and do the workflow or walk through the workflow like we did here in Max using Civil View, and then import it right in, and everything works as it should. All right, that's all we have for part 4. That's animating a car. Look for additional steps in this series. I'm going to create a part 5, part 6. The next step should be animating people. I'd like to be able to put some people here in 3ds Max using populate and have them maybe moving around, interacting with each other a little bit, maybe somebody standing there talking on their cell phone, and then have some people walking in the parking lot or walking along the edge of this building. And ultimately, I'd like to have somebody walking around on the backside of this track here, or this concrete sidewalk behind the pond. So that'll just be the next part that we have. So we'll just continue to animate things as we move along. I hope that you've enjoyed this session, part 4 of this series, VR Level 2. And you're more than welcome to ping me if you have questions. You can always get me at john.sayer@autodesk.com, and I'll try and help you any way I can. All right, folks, thank you, and I hope you have a great day.